This is Living Power with Dan Hurst.
Which takes us to the next point, and that is discover the success of God. Now, this is just an interesting statement, but it's something that Hezekiah taught us in the 7th verse. He says, the Lord was with him, and he was successful in whatever he undertook. It was the result of God doing something in his life, and actually it was God's success. And you are to enjoy God's success in your life. Let me suggest to you that you are to enjoy God's success in your marriage. You are to enjoy God's success in your business. You are to enjoy God's success in your relationship with friends. You are to enjoy God's success in the endeavors that you take on in your life. You are to enjoy God's success. I was talking with Jerry earlier. He was passing along some more things that happened with the book that I wrote and how God's been using that book. And, you know, it was amazing. We're looking at all of these things, all these stories about how God has used this book and touched people's lives and everything. You realize the book's only been out 3 months. And when I look at that, I recognize this is just something that God does. It's not something that it's not something that I'm doing, because I'm not. I'm not the one that's doing it. It's something that God chooses to do. It is the success of God. When God chooses to do something, it is successful. When God chooses to work in your life and wants you to do things His way, it will be successful. God doesn't call you to failure. He allows you to fail, but He doesn't call you to failure. Because God's ways are success. So, I want you to see 2 things about the success of God. First of all, God's success, oh man, this is so life-changing. God's success is centered on you. Just let that sink in. God's success is centered on you. I want you to see something in Psalm chapter 20. Look at this, starting with verse 1. May the Lord answer you when you are in distress. How many of you could use that? 7. May the name of the God of Jacob protect you. How many of you could use that? 12. May He send you help from the sanctuary and grant you support. How many of you could use that? May He remember all your sacrifices and accept your offerings. How many of you can do that? I knew. Okay, we'll be taking an offering. May He give you the desire of your heart. Now remember, that phrase in the Bible means that He will put His desire in your heart. Doesn't mean that He'll give you whatever you want. No, Tim, you can't have an Alfa Romeo. Where's the Romeo? But He will put His desire in your heart. That's what that phrase means. God will put His desire in your heart, and look at this, and make all your plans succeed. Now I want you to just camp on that a minute and think about that phrase. If God puts His desires in your heart, then what do your plans become? His plans. When God motivates you to do things His way, when He puts His desires in your heart, that means that He's putting His plans, His purpose, His dreams, His goals in your life. And God, believe me, has goals and dreams for your life. And as He puts those in your life, when you are focused on Him, desiring to do it God's way, He puts His desires in your heart, and those plans will succeed. Do you really believe that? Or do you just want to believe it? Let me suggest that you talk to a few people who discovered this to be truth. And you're looking at one right now. I've learned in my own life that God's plans succeed. Mine fail. And when He puts His desires in my heart to do something, it's amazing to watch what He decides to do. I cannot take any credit for it because it was His plan. It was His desire that He put in my life. And I recognize it from the very beginning. Boy, I wouldn't have done it this way. God, if you want to do it, go. What? It's working? shouldn't it be? It's like Jerry said earlier when we were talking about the book. He said, well, isn't that the norm? Isn't that the way God does things? Well, yeah. But we get so surprised. Oh, wow. When it should be, yeah, I don't got to come through. It's just God's way of doing things. And if we'll live our life that way, as Psalm 37:4 says, delight yourself in the Lord. Make Him the focus of your life. Put your focus on Him. Let Him be the one who directs your life. Delight your way in the Lord, and He will put His desires in your heart. Psalm 37:4. That's the way God says to do it. If we'll do it His way, He promises success. It is a promise from God. And if it is a promise from God, a promise is a revelation of God's will. Every time you see a promise in the Bible from God, that is a promise, that is God saying, this is what I want, this is my will. And if this promise says that He'll put His desires in your heart and that your plans will succeed, that means that is God's will for your life. It's what God wants. And you're going, well, what's taking so long? How about you're still discovering His desire in your heart? And I love what the next verse says. When we discover that and our plans succeed, look at the resolve here. When God does His thing and our plans succeed, we will shout for joy. When you are victorious and will lift up our banners in the name of our God, may the Lord grant